Thank you very much for having me here. I'm talking, well, we already announced my talk, so we'll move on to the next slide. So a little bit about me, because this is a thing you're supposed to do during presentations. My day job is at a small company called Carbon 5. We're a consulting firm. I software engineer there. Well, I web dev there. Anyway, this talk is really based more on my experience at an organization called ChickTech. And ChickTech it's a nonprofit that's getting high school girls interested in technology as a career. And I spent time there being the mentor director, and there so I had to recruit a lot of volunteers, and really this talk is about that. And then there's some contact information. So in case anybody isn't sure what a diversity initiative is, it's an organization whose purpose is to encourage diversity, specifically in an industry for the most part. And in our case, really the tech industry. And in order to run a diversity initiative, you really need a legion. Maybe not quite this legion, but you need a legion of volunteers, because otherwise your diversity initiative is not going to really do anything if you don't have people to make it happen. So what I'm talking about today is really how to build this legion. And really, building a volunteer legion isn't easy. You have to deal with people. People are kind of annoying at times. And you kind of have to herd them and try to get them to do the things that you want to do. But that's okay, because it's kind of a worthwhile thing to do. And so I'm going to start out by talking about how I got into ChickTech. I got into ChickTech, and it started in a bathroom. Well, okay, not exactly in a bathroom. I was walking down the street, and I really needed to go to the bathroom. And I happened to be passing by a meetup that I knew was going on. And at the time, it was like 7 p.m. at night, and I was walking around in the financial district of San Francisco, which really, there's nothing open at 7 p.m. in the financial district. So I'm like, I will hop into this meetup for like 5 minutes, use the restroom really quick, and leave, because I really have to go. And I walk into the meetup, and I realize that the entrance to the meetup is kind of facing everybody. Like, I'm walking in, and I'm facing all of you right now, and this is what it was like to walk into the meetup. So I think to myself, maybe I should stay through introductions, which they were doing right then, before actually leaving, because there's a little bit of social pressure here to not just pop in, pop out. And so I go to the restroom really quick, I come back, and they're still going through introductions, and I listen to the introductions. In the middle of the introductions, this lady called Janice, who is the founder of ChickTech, is talking about starting a chapter in San Francisco. And she explains that ChickTech is an organization to get high school girls interested in technology. And at the time, I was fun employed. Fun employed is pretty great. And I had some time, and an organization like this was something that I really wanted to get involved in. And because she was there, because I was there, I thought, this is a good opportunity. I will stay. I will listen to what she has to say. And maybe something good will happen out of this. I have some time. I'm fun employed. And really, interactions like this are what build your volunteer organization. And right now, at least right now, recruiting for a diversity initiative is fairly easy in that you don't have to explain why an organization like this is needed. Why do we have to build diversity? You don't have to answer that question every single time you talk to somebody. The first time Habitat for Humanity goes out and talks to somebody about we're gonna get volunteers who have no fucking clue how to build a house. We're gonna have them build a house. And you're like, really? On the other hand, diversity initiative, everybody knows that it's a problem and they're like, okay, I wanna get on board. But the thing is, you have to talk to a lot of people to get them on board. Because most people are not going to come looking for you. So you have to go to meetups, you have to go to hack nights, whatever it is, and you go there and you talk to people about your organization, and you talk to them about having this organization, and a lot of the times somebody there will be like, oh yeah, I've been interested in that, and I would like to help out. In the case of within a company, that's a little bit different, so you kind of like go through company mailing lists. That's a different beast. I don't know much about that. And kind of through talking to a lot of people, you will find a lot of people interested in helping out. But the thing is, you're running a diversity initiative. And when you are recruiting for people, you want to make sure that, you can kind of tell, but that there's a lot of different people here, and you want to recruit diverse people. So you don't want to just go to meetups. You want to go, whenever you're just like at parties and you meet other people, you talk about this. And you get a lot of different kinds of people, because if you have a diversity initiative that is not diverse, then what is the point? And when you have a lot of those different ideas together to build the diversity initiative, it's a much better way to tackle the problem than just having, oh, I'm a women-focused group, and I'm only gonna have women volunteers. That doesn't work. So, I don't have my speaker notes up. Anyway, when you go and you talk to people, you want to make sure that you have a pitch, because even though mostly people will understand what you're doing, they still need to know what you're actually doing. So in ChickTech case, I always start with, it's a technology organization that is helping high school girls get interested in a technology career. It's really, really short, and it's really, really digestible, and people will understand. And when you go to a meetup or whatever, and there's introductions, you kind of say who you are, and then you talk about your, kind of the pitch of your organization, but really, really short, so that people aren't like, oh, you're talking forever. And then the thing is, a lot of people will talk to you, and they're not very good at following up with you, because they have a lot of other things they need to do in their life, and it's not necessarily the first priority for them to think about the volunteer opportunity that they just talked to you about. So you have to follow up. You have to follow up a lot, and sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times following up to get people to actually come volunteer for you, but in the end, this is really, really worth it, because you need the volunteers. Otherwise, your diversity initiative goes whatever, right? And then when you actually have them, you kind of, when you follow up with them, then you kind of have to sit them down and figure out what it is they want to do with your organization. Because different people have different time commitments and willingness to help, essentially. So you sit them down, you have coffee with them, and you kind of figure out what it is they're willing to help. And in these conversations, there's a couple of things you want to talk about, which is identify the actual volunteer role that they want to do. So there's a lot of different roles that you can have, and then you want to be really clear about the time commitments for those different roles. The thing with having different roles is that when you're first starting out, you're not really sure what all those roles are, so maybe you create an org chart. This is kind of a really dinky org chart. Anyway, and you kind of think about who will talk to who and whatever, and it's kind of boring, but it's really important to do, because once you have to have some sort of organizational structure in order to run your organization, because organization. And there's lots of different time commitments for the different kinds of roles. If you have a leadership role, it's going to take way more time than if they're coming and just helping out with one workshop. And really, you want to be clear about the time commitment for the different roles, because otherwise, people tend to flake a lot. People are really, really, really flaky when it comes to volunteer roles because there isn't like a monetary incentive for people to be there. So for some reason, they take that a lot less seriously. But if you are clear about the time commitment, you at least take away the excuse that, oh, this took way more time than I thought it would. So be clear about the time and commitments and estimate possibly more time than you think it will actually take. The other thing about that is that you want to ask, so if you are clear about time commitments and they accept a smaller role now, you kind of have your foot in the door. Anyway, and later on, they might go on to a bigger role. So this year, they're a workshop volunteer. Next year, for us, they maybe sign on to be a mentor for the full year. And then maybe the year after that, they agree to be on the leadership team. And I started out thinking that I was going to be like maybe a workshop volunteer, help out with a workshop. But then I started talking to Janice a lot more, and because of where I came from in terms of what the organization was trying to do. So the ChickTech has a kickoff event every year, and the kickoff event is a 2-day workshop to kind of get girls who don't really know anything about technology to a point where they feel like they can do something. And you build a project, and at the end of it, having this project means that it's like concrete proof that you can do technology. That's not this other person that's really smart over there that can do things. I'm the one that can actually build something. And through this 2-day workshop, the increase in interest in technology career went from like 14% of girls to 46% of girls. And this is just a 2-day workshop. So after having that 2-day workshop, we really wanted to have a year-long program. And to me, having a year-long program means that you should have somebody who is kind of your contact point. And that is kind of how I became the mentor director, because I wanted to have the girls have someone walk them through the year, and to have someone to touch base about, to ask questions, and whatever it is to build their interest. And hopefully, maybe raise that 46% up to 60, 70, 80%. And kind of the fact that I took on this role was dictated by my interest. And you really have to kind of look for what the volunteer's interest is. So when you sit them down and you have coffee with them, you ask them, what are you interested in doing? Some people are like, I'm really, really excited about robotics, and I want to teach girls how to build robots. And I want to put on that workshop, and I'm really, really passionate about that. For me, I was really passionate about making sure that the girls had mentorship so that when they had questions, they had someone to go to. But the thing is, it's really great to put volunteers in those positions, and you want to put them somewhere they're interested in. But if they tell you that what they want to do is host big parties to help fundraise things, then you kind of have to be like, whoa, hold on a sec. Are you willing to take that on? Are you willing to do all the work for that? Because we're a nonprofit, and for the most part, they all have a shortage of money, they all have a shortage of people doing things, and it's going to be hard to take on something super big. So if they're willing to take that on, definitely support them in doing what they want. But if they're not willing to take that on, be like, maybe we can do that next year or the year after when we have more people. And with ChickTech, it was really, really, really kind of great. And the way that they supported me is they flew out people from, well, they flew out a kitty, not an actual kitty. They flew out someone to help me with volunteer training because I'd never done volunteer training before. And they're like, it's okay, we got this. We'll help you, and you will know how to train people because we'll fly someone out. They'll do the training the first time, and then you can just repeat that, and you can do your thing. And that was really, really, really great for me because I was willing to take on this role, and I was bringing all the volunteers in, but there's some pieces that I'm like, I don't really know. So you really want to support people, and when they have issues, you want to make sure that they're properly supported and they have some way to do the thing that they want to do. And with training, right, good training makes for good phalanxes. Or, well, if you're having a legion, you can call them phalanxes. And really, there's a lot I can talk about with training. I could go on about training for days. So I'm not going to go on for days about training. But kind of the things you want to emphasize in training are things like empathizing with your population. So my mentors, they're all over in their careers. You range from mid-20s to 50s, 60s. And they don't have a whole lot of empathy, necessarily, for your 14, 15, 16-year-old girl. But through kind of taking themselves back to the teenage years and kind of thinking about it, whether or not they really wanted to think about their teenage years or not, was one way to kind of set them back to where they wanted, where their population was. And telling them things like, a 14, 15, 16-year-old girl, what is their major concern? Their major concern is, getting along with their friends, maybe making sure that they get into a college, maybe thinking about that cute boy sitting next to them over there, but maybe not always that. But kind of to put themselves in that place. And you want to make sure that your volunteers have empathy for the population they're working with, because you don't want them to be condescending. If you're trying to get your message across, you want to make sure that you treat the people you're helping as equals, because they're people too, whether they're young or whatever it is. And the other thing that's really important with volunteers is to tell them why you are there. Why are you helping out with this organization? What is your story? Because it really helps volunteers to bring themselves back to why they are there and why they are helping out with the organization and connect with you as a person instead of just a talking head at the head of training. And once you have kind of finished training, hopefully they can go out into the world and do their volunteer thing. But once they start doing their volunteer thing, you want to do a couple of things to prevent them from flaking out. Because when volunteers disappear, it's really hard for you to run the organization, because you expected them to do something, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore, and they're not responding to you, and it's terrible. And if you're a volunteer, please don't do that. So you really want to have regular check-ins, especially if it's a long-running role. With workshop volunteers, it's one workshop, you can check in with them much less often. But for like a mentor program where they're supposed to meet up with the girl every single month, you want to check in with them really often. I was actually really terrible at this, but I know that I was supposed to do better. And with check-ins, you can kind of find out what issues they're having. And once they tell you what issues they have, you want to work to remove those obstacles. Whether it's, my girl is not responding to me, and I can't get in contact with her. And then you go and you track down the girl and you go, why are you not responding to your mentor? And you kind of make sure that they meet up. And you just remove all of these obstacles for your volunteers as much as possible, if you're acting as leadership anyway. And and so that they will continue to be able to do the thing that they want to do, which is to help out the girl. But the thing is, sometimes when volunteering, you can't prevent having too much time put into kind of the whole volunteer effort. And then you have burnout. And burnout is terrible and horrible and awful. And there was 3 months inside of ChickTech where I was running 20 hours at least of ChickTech work alongside my full-time job. And this was the result of running that for 3 months. And really, there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of prevent burnout, because once people burn out, they don't come back next year. And if they don't come back next year, then you have to rebuild the organization from the ground up, and it's terrible, because then it's the first year all over again. So really kind of the biggest thing, and this is true for software projects, for everything, it's ruthless prioritization. Like, all of those things that are super cool in your head, cut them out. And do kind of the core focus and really, really do exactly what your organization can support. And in our case, maybe we shouldn't have put on so many follow-up workshops. Maybe we shouldn't have had the program so big the first year. But whatever it is, be ruthless and prioritize the hell out of it and do only what you can do, because you really, really, really don't want to burn out your people, because they want to do good. They want to be there. But if they don't feel like they want to be there anymore, they're not going to be there, and they can't do the work that they want to do. And if they survive, or whether or not they survive, say thank you. Say thank you to them all the time, because they're giving their time to you. And that's really, really valuable. Money is also really, really valuable. But time is super valuable, because there's only so much of it, really. And volunteers really appreciate being thanked, because that's really all they're kind of there for. They're there to help people and to know that they've made a difference. And when you say thank you, they know that they've made a difference. And then, at the end of the year, you want to celebrate. You want to be like, yeah, we did this cool thing. This is the cool thing that we did. In our case, it's the girls through the year, they built these other cool things. Look at all the cool things they did. And this kind of really drives home the point that, like, they have made a difference. And it's a time for you to also reflect on the differences that you've made. And those are really kind of all of my tips for how to build a volunteer organization. And so hopefully, if you want to start a diversity initiative and you need to build a volunteer organization, hopefully you can do it too. Thank you very much.